Okay, welcome everybody. We have an exciting night planned for everyone. We have a couple new members tonight. So I think that the first thing on the agenda tonight is to introduce ourselves. So why don't we go around and introduce ourselves and say where we're from and anything that you would like to share. Wendy, do you want to start us off?
Did you say Wendy?
Sure.
Okay. I'm Wendy Esch from Shawano, Wisconsin. I teach physical science, geology, and astronomy. What else am I supposed to say? My NASA workshop connection to the group is I was one of the teachers selected for the Themis mission, GEONS, and heliophysics educator ambassadors.
Thanks, Wendy.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Vic Trauman. I am also involved with, basically, Wendy and I go way back. I teach in Petersburg, Alaska, which, by the way, has been a really nice, warm winter. And I teach physical science, geology, surveying, anatomy and physiology, physics, chemistry, and about anything else that they should be able to teach or have taught.
Hey, you guys, can you just make sure that your microphones are muted while you're not speaking? We're getting some really funny background noise going on at the moment. And Dawn, I think you have the ability to mute anybody who can't. So Jim is introducing himself. He's on the chat window and I think on the phone. He's Jim Bean from the GEONS Themis program, and he's a high school science teacher from Carson High in Nevada. Am I right? And I guess while I'm speaking, I may as well introduce myself. My name is Claire Raftery, and I am a space scientist, a solar physicist to be exact, from Dublin, Ireland, but currently residing in San Francisco, and I am a scientist at UC Berkeley at the Space Sciences Lab. So you're going to meet a few folks from our group here tonight, and I'm one of the coordinators of the community of practice.
Thanks, Claire.
I'll jump in. My name's Lynn Powers. I am an informal educator in Bozeman, Montana. I am the president of the local astronomy club, and we do outreach in Yellowstone National Park and all around the state. And I came to this group through the radiation belt, now the Van Allen belt storm probes.
Thanks, Lynn. Laura, do you want to go?
I can take my turn. I'm Laura Orr. I teach in Ukiah, Oregon, which is a small town in eastern Oregon. I've also been part of Themis and GEONS and the Heliophysics Education Ambassador Program, and now this. So I know Wendy and Chris and Vic very well as other people. And I teach everything. I am the science department for our small school, so I do everything.
Thanks, Laura.
And I know Jim.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Little tired.
Did you have a rough day?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Andy, did you talk with Dr. Gonzalez?
Actually, even though I look like Andy, this is actually Dawn.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Andy's stuck in traffic right now, so she gave me her login.
Okay.
So she'll be joining us in a little bit.
Okay.
But I do believe that she did talk to him, but I don't know how the conversation.
Okay. So I'm here.
Right now, Elizabeth, we're just going around and introducing ourselves and saying a little bit about ourselves, about how we got involved and where we're from, and what you enjoy about the group.
Okay. You start with me?
Sure, if you like.
Okay. Elizabeth Torres from Puerto Rico. I'm working in special high school in theater. I teach 9, 10, 11, and 12 grades. Biology, chemistry, environmental science, and earth science.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Who wants to go next?
I think it's my turn. Can you guys see me? Hello?
Hi, we can see you.
Okay, great. Trying out my computer and I was having some bugs earlier. So my name is Darlene Yan. I'm also part of the team at Center for Science Education as Space Sciences Laboratory. We're changing our name to Multiverse. So if you've seen us say Multiverse, it's kind of, we're in between both names. But we're the group that worked with various NASA missions, and I was part of the 2 different educator ambassador programs. So one was Heliophysics Educator Ambassadors, HEA, and there's a bunch of HEAs here. And the recent one, MAVEN, which is a Mars mission that launched just at the end of last year. So there's the MAVEN Educator Ambassador Program, and I helped to run both of those. So you'll see me pop in and out today.
Thanks, Darlene. Nancy, you want to go next? You're on mute, Nancy. Let me see if I can unmute you. Oops.
Try it again.
Sorry.
Did that work?
Yeah, I tried to unmute you at the same time, and I actually muted you.
Well, I'm not the techno girl, so that's okay.
Me either. So.
Well, but that's good. So I'm Nancy Stout. I'm down here in Houston, Texas, and right now I'm just going to tell you, I feel for all of y'all up there in the north and the northeast, because we had a beautiful day today. Our high was 73 today. Had my windows open. It's been a beautiful day. So I'm really sorry for those of y'all that haven't had this kind of a day in a while. But anyway, so I'm a middle school teacher. I teach between 6th grade and 8th grade. This year I'm split between 6th grade and 8th grade at Space Center Intermediate School. And we are right across the street from Johnson Space Center in Houston. So it's a really great opportunity to do a lot of space sciences and a lot of really neat science down here. I was part of HEA, Heliophysics Educator Ambassador Program, with the original group from Alaska. So that's been kind of fun. And I have pictures of Darlene hiking a mountain when she was pregnant. So that's also kind of fun. And anyway, then the most recent thing I did was a few years ago with Dawn down at, in Baltimore, and that was with New Horizons. So this is kind of like the meat and potatoes of what I like to do. So that's me.
Thanks, Nancy. And guess what, Nancy? We are finally going to get a huge heat wave and get below freezing here on the East Coast. And I was so excited, but I have to go to Chicago on the day that it's going to be.
Oh no! I'm so sorry. Yeah, my students are fascinated with all of it. Yeah.
Okay, who would like to go next?
I can go next. You can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, it's nice to meet you guys. I'm here in cold Chicago. I think we got Vic's cold weather from last night. I teach.
You can hear me for 1 second. Can everybody else make sure that their microphones are on mute? We're getting again.
It looks like everyone is on, but there's some feedback from underneath, I think. Let me see if I can mute other people. Okay.
Better?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right, cool. So I teach 7th and 8th grade science in Chicago at a charter school, Legacy Charter School. I've been teaching 8 years now, and I've been teaching science all of those years. I met Andy only recently, maybe a month ago. We just started doing the Space Explorers program, so this is new to me. Heliophysics is new to me, but it's very exciting. So it's nice to meet all of you guys.
Nice to meet you too, Dimitri. What is the Space Explorers program?
It's an after-school program. It runs 8 weeks, 8 weeks. It is this year. I'm not sure if it changes from year to year, and I'm sure others can fill you in. But this year we're focused on the IBEX mission. So I think it's primarily to teach the public through our kids about that mission, and a lot of information about the solar system and heliophysics in general.
Very cool. Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
It's a fun group. Glad to have you. Maggie, do you want to go?
Can you hear me now? Anyone? Yes, yes, okay.
Yes. Yay.
My name's Maggie. I'm on the beautiful island of Maui. I just spent this past weekend learning about particle physics from the heliophysics group here in Hawaii. It was fascinating stuff. I got involved with this program through the Heliophysics Education Ambassadors, and I know lots of you, and some of you I don't know, but I'm looking forward to meeting you, and that's all.
Thanks, Maggie. Who haven't I called on yet? I feel like romper room. I see Claire and I see
I think Vicky just joined us, and then we have 2 new people to introduce themselves also.
Oh, Chris, do you want to go?
Sure. Dimitri already went, right? So I'm the other new guy, the new old guy. Nice to see a lot of you guys again. I haven't seen many of you since Anchorage when we did the HEA workshop up there. My roots actually go back a little bit further than that in heliophysics. I was fortunate enough to be with the Teacher Leaders in Research-Based Science Education project and did some solar magnetism research on Kit Peak before I got involved with Themis. And continuing, I guess, the tradition, so to speak, now we're looking at the impact of heliophysics on Mars with the MAVEN mission. I'm one of the educator ambassadors for that mission as well. I teach here in Michigan, high school, biology, earth science, oceanography, and astronomy. That's it.
So Vic had a cool connection between heliophysics and oceanography a couple months ago. It was really cool about whales and the connection with magnetic disturbances in the magnetosphere. Is that? Do I have that right, Vic?
Well, what I ended up, we had a whale research scientist out here with our whales, and I went to his presentation. He made this offhand remark about whales following the magnetic fields in the ocean floor. And that's all he said. Well, after I says, but you realize those magnetic fields in the ocean floor are influenced and start to move around when we end up with a CME from the sun. And he says, well, that's maybe why you have way more strandings during a CME than you have any other time. And I'm looking here, wow, I never heard of that before. And then, believe it or not, there was a release, and it's been published, where dogs align themselves when they relieve themselves in a north-south position, unless it's a CME, and then they don't. I'm finding all kinds of connections, and some of them are kind of crappy, but they're connections.
I think this is a perfect science fair project. Do you? I think we should get, it's probably like a good 8th grade project, get all of these kids to, every time they bring their dog out to relieve themselves, they got to bring a compass with them and take some measurements.
But they did it with a couple of thousand dogs in Czechoslovakia. You wonder why they were doing it, but they were.
I love that. Hey, Andy, you made it.
I did. Drama abounded, and this is a good point to be grateful for collaboration. So thank you. I'm so glad. And like I said, this is the best conversation to come in on right now.
And just for people that are confused that came in a bit late, I am not Andy's twin, although it looks like that on the screen.
I did get confused by that. I was like, how am I already on there?
That's bad if you were confused too, Andy.
Right. I'm not in my body yet, so I'm still a little. It's like, how does that work? So hi everybody.
Andy's had a rough time. She was stuck in an accident traffic on the way home, so I logged on as her to get the meeting started. So welcome, Andy.
Thanks, and thank you so much.
Dawn, maybe you should make sure that you introduce yourself as yourself then.
I am Andy. I am the real Andy Nelson. I am standing up. And, so I say, and that's what Chris looks like. Hi, Dimitri, and hi, Jen. So Dimitri and Jen I know really, really well. I just got back from Darnella's school, and she's way on the south side in awful traffic. So, and Chris, it's nice to have a face to put to the name. So I'm glad everybody's here. And to see everybody else here. Yeah, Nancy, I knew I was thinking about you on my way home going, this was Nancy last month. Anyhow, so were you all able to introduce and tell me what you want me to do?
We still need Ricky and Jen and you and me to introduce ourselves.
Well, somebody else go and I'll collect myself and try to be a little more eloquent.
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and go. My name is Dawn Turney, and I work at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Laurel, Maryland. And I was before I became an education public outreach specialist, I was a middle school science teacher. And I have more of a background in environmental science than space science. So this was an incredible opportunity for me when I came to the lab to learn about space science and to put my education practice in not only formal education, but years of informal education to work and to learn some new skills and meet some phenomenal people along the way. So I've really enjoyed this group and happy to be a part of it. That's all. Thanks.
I can go. My name is Ricky Shackelford. I work at Berkeley Space Science Lab. And I, too, was an environmental educator before I came to the Space Science Lab. I work on a couple of projects. I work with teen interns, teaching them how NASA uses artists in their missions. And I work on the forum and a couple of other projects. And I'm also very excited to meet some really wonderful people and some wonderful teachers and get a chance to work with you all. Thanks.
And I think we have one more person to still introduce themselves.
That's probably me.
Hi. I'm sorry, hi. I didn't remember your names.
Oh no, that's okay. Sorry. I'm just like, I'm getting confused because my sound is playing through my Apple TV through my stereo right now, so I just don't want to throw anybody off.
So Dawn, I was going to say, Jen, why don't I can introduce I can hear the reverb back from you.
That's what I'm worried about. I just kind of want to turn it down.
So Dimitri and Jen are both teachers in a program that I do here with Chicago public school teachers that uses the GEM space science sequence and helps to work with teachers to use inquiry hands-on based teaching methods in an after-school environment so that they can take that into their classrooms. And so Jen is also an HEA. So some of you might know Jen from an HEA conference. I know Darlene probably does for sure. And so Jen has been an HEA. She is just Adler Old Guard. We all know her and adore her. And Dimitri is very, very new. This is his first semester, but he's very, very hungry and eager. So I knew that they would be really good fits for this group, and I'm glad that they can join us. So Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yeah, this is still, I'm sorry if this is going to be like really, it's got a lot of feedback, but yeah, I'm finding this interesting that there's so many like environmental science people on here, because have we just like given up on Earth and we're moving to space? Like we're just ready to like go beyond at this point. But yeah, I teach at a school in Chicago, and I teach 5th through 6th grade right now. And I just started at a new school this year, and so I'm, able to expand a little bit more than I did at my old school. But yeah, I do the Adler Space Explorers. I've pretty much done every program at the Adler possible because they have excellent programs. I did the HEA program and then did the HEA reunion, so I recognize some familiar faces on here. But yeah, I'm excited about this project because there's kind of a lack of science professional development in Chicago, and there's just it's nice to collaborate with people and to just find like-minded people that are interested in teaching science. And I had one of my kids the other day say, "I think you're the only scientist that teaches science." And I was like, it's not very common for like teachers to have a research background, but that's part of the reason why I have like explored all these options with the Adler and everything, is because it's nice to kind of straddle that boundary between working in like a lab setting and then being able to bring that into the classroom. And I'm glad that more teachers are kind of getting those experiences without like necessarily having a research background. But yeah, the kids always like find it funny. They're like, "Oh, you're an actual scientist." I'm like, "Well, you guys are scientists too. Like anybody who does science is a scientist. So like, let's just make it happen." So yeah.
Thanks, Jen. Welcome.
Thanks.
I still love environmental science. Haven't given up on it. So I think we've introduced everybody, or everybody has introduced themselves. The next thing on our agenda tonight is to hear an update about the YouTube project. And Claire, do you still want to do that?
Don, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. It's Andy. Jim, did you get a chance to introduce yourself? Because I saw you joined in to make our square completed here to get a chance.
He chatted in.
Okay, great. Never mind. You've got it under control. I'm sorry.
He's on the chat today. Okay, so I am just going to, let me maybe start with some context for people who are new to the group. We have been hosting these meetings for, I guess, a year now, and we started to record them and make them available in an archive, or we planned to record them and make them available in an archive, which we have just begun to do. So we have a dedicated YouTube page that we have been putting the recordings of these meetings up on, and today I just wanted to give you guys a quick walkthrough of where that is and what it looks like. So because this is a private group and people's faces and so on are on show here, we didn't want to make these just generally searchable for the whole World Wide Web to come across. And so we put them in a playlist. So it's a private playlist. So that means that if you have the link to the playlist, then you can go and look at any of them. Or if you want to share them with colleagues, you can give them the URL for the playlist. It just means that if you go into YouTube, you can't just search for community of practice and it will pop up. You do need to know the link. So because you need to know the link, we made a nice, what I hope is a nice, straightforward, memorable URL for you. So I've just put it into the chat window. So we've used bit.ly just to make it nice and short. So it's bit.ly/heliocop_videos. So Helio Cup videos, which I just realized after we made it. So I'm going to quickly share with you some of what we have on here. So we have some of the videos already up and running. This is what it will look like when you go to that link. It's just a shortened URL that brings you to our Heliophysics Community of Practice YouTube page. So you can see here on this page, so far we have 5 videos up and running. And so the idea is that we'll have our weekly meetings that will go up here, and they will hopefully be time stamped. So in the next few weeks, you might start to see some funny things going on in the chat window or in some of the notes where we try to make some record of the timestamp. So if you know that during that video, Lynn did a really cool demonstration of some hands-on activity, we'll be able to make it so you can just jump straight to that activity. You won't have to watch the whole hour and a half worth of a meeting again. So as we go along, as we add more of these videos, they'll go into this playlist, so you'll be able to go through and have them all in one place. You won't have to have individual links in order. So something that we are going to try and do is, if there are like really good segments like that, we're going to try and pull them out and make them a separate video. So you can see solar flares with Dr. Claire Raftery here, or how to make a sun funnel with Lynn Powers. So we're going to try and have these individual segments, if that's helpful to people, as well as having the whole hour and a half meeting. So as we don't have to trawl through all of us introducing ourselves over again, or whatever it might be each time, to see all of the videos. Okay, so does anybody have any questions on this or suggestions on, if you've experienced different ways that this might be more efficient or anything like that? We're all ears. We're learning along with you guys for this. No? Okay. Well, take a note of the URL that I just put into the chat window. And you can just keep it, that will stay the URL for the whole list. And then every week as we add a new video, if it's helpful, we can also provide you with the individual URL for that specific video. But it means you can always go to this bit.ly web address in order to find all of the YouTube videos.
Claire, are you going to put that link on the Wikio as well, so people?
I can do.
I know we talked about it. I don't know if we had decided about that or not. And then did you mean monthly meetings, that every month when we go up, or every week?
I meant monthly.
Okay. Also, I thought, there's more than I knew about.
No, thanks for reading my mind, Andy.
Well, I thought maybe there was something I forgot in my discombobulation. But especially for all of our new members, it'll be a good place for you to go back and look at some of the past information that we've shared with each other. And also, well, mostly that, and just kind of get a feel for who people are in the group and the things that we've done. So that'll be a really good reference for that. But like Claire said, it's not a private, Claire, how do you put it? It's not a private, but it's
unlisted.
Unlisted, thank you. I knew there was a distinction. I wanted to use the right language. That it is unlisted, so people can't search for you. But if you are, if you have any objections or have any issues with being on there, please let one of us know so that we can figure out how to work with that for you.
This is why at the beginning of every meeting we'll start to say this, the little spiel that I gave at the beginning. If you want to turn your video camera off, just if people have children in the background or so on, just because it will be on the internet for anyone who has the link to see, but we're not going to be sharing it hither, thither, and yon, but just being cautious.
And in the same bent, we ask that you not share the link with other people. If there's something on there that you would like to see or be able to share, or some information or what have you, then one of us would be glad to help walk you through that on how to do it appropriately. But just for the privacy of others, we do ask that you don't share the link with other people. And again, if there's something specific that you, out of the video, you want to be able to share with your colleagues or students or something, then contact one of us, and we will figure out how we can best help support you to do that.
Andy, would it be appropriate? I've got the software that I can take any YouTube video and break it down. What I usually do is an MOV file or MPG file or any of those.
Hi, Vic, you're my new best friend.
And I can convert it into that fairly quickly and then post it someplace. Is that appropriate or not?
Well, so Vic,
I can take those individual ones.
the reason that we have it up on YouTube is we also have it as I think an MP4 file, but they're so huge, it's really difficult to post them somewhere. So we found that the most convenient way of sharing it with everybody and not clogging up their hard drives by emailing it or having people having to download it was to just put them on YouTube. So I'm speaking for the group here, so Nancy or Andy or Dawn, if you guys want to cut me off or contradict me here, that's okay. But I'm assuming if you want to download them and save them for yourself, then that would be awesome. But I think that the purpose of the YouTube channel is so as we don't have to worry about having them posted somewhere. So what might be helpful is if you had that software that you could share with the rest of the group if others wanted to do the same thing for themselves.
Or perhaps Vic can help us after each of these meetings with our large files.
See, what it does is that what it makes it nice. I'll be honest with you. I really don't need most of our discussions, but there are some very nice, for example, Claire's presentation. Once you have an MPG file, you can cut out everything else and just have that 15-minute segment and say, well, the conversation and all the other stuff we talked about, we don't need. But so, it's pretty easy to do, to edit it once you get it. And it's not freeware, but it's $20. And you can put it on every machine you've got.
But I'm more than happy to have you give us a hand with all of this, Vic. I think you've just volunteered yourself, so.
I vote for Vic.
I second.
Woo! Vic, oh, Laura third, so we have a quorum. We're good. We'll be in contact, Vic.
You know, I'm going to retire soon, so you be careful.
You can.
But doesn't that just mean that you'll have more time on your hands?
That's what I was just about to say. Claire, I couldn't unmute it fast enough.
Okay, so there's a bullet here, Andy, about how to give feedback. Do you want to say something about that? I'm not quite sure what Nancy had in mind. So actually, let me take a second to say that we all introduced ourselves at the beginning of this meeting, but somebody who didn't get a chance to introduce herself is Nancy Ali, who is also at the Space Sciences Lab, and she is sort of one of the main coordinators of this whole endeavor. So she was supposed to be giving this segment today. Unfortunately, her uncle died this week, so she's not going to be joining us, but hopefully we'll meet her at the next meeting for those of you who don't already know her. So as I said, she was supposed to be discussing the YouTube project, but I don't know quite what she had in mind for the feedback. Andy, do you know what that was supposed to be, or Dawn?
Just a conversation about, just about giving, as they use it, to make sure that you give us feedback on what you think would be most useful or more helpful. And especially, Vic's comments were a good example of that. How could we do it better? This is just the way that we came up with and the way the pieces that we had at our disposal, and we're trying to make it as user-friendly so that we can timestamp things and in the agendas and put those in the discussions. And I'm not an avid YouTube user, so this is all very new to me on how to, it's supposed to be useful for you to be able to find those pieces. So just give us feedback about what, as you use it, what you think would be more helpful, and we can definitely work together to try to find a way to do that. It might mean we enlist you to help us, but that was all that meant. So, hi Diane, it's nice to see you.
Hi. Am I an hour late or early?
You are just in time. You're not an hour late. We did start, but we're glad you're here.
Andy, I'm going to back up a second here.
You can't take back your offer to help, Vic.
Yeah, but what we're looking at, I'm looking at from the user perspective, not from posting. You found the perfect place to post it. I'm talking about the user end, where you as a user, you can take it off and put it on a smart board, embed it in a smart board, and you can play it from that, and you don't have to be attached to the internet. So it's more of a user than a production. I don't think you can beat YouTube for a production.
I agree with you, Vic, and I think that if that's something that people would like, I don't know whether or not you think it would be useful for maybe you to piece it apart and then provide the bits to everybody, or if maybe helping all of the members to use the software that you mentioned and do it for themselves, maybe that's something that we could have a conversation about on Wigio to see what way people would find it useful. Once you have the YouTube video, then what do you want to do with it? How do you want to use it?
Yeah, I would agree. That was, just as long as somebody knows that that information is being used in the classroom or a public setting, because we all, this is a safe and close environment, and so we want to make sure that any opinions are expressed are not, tied to anybody as a punitive type of piece or any of those things, and make sure that everybody's okay with it. But I agree with Claire. I think that we just need to have a conversation about it and figure. We don't have any answers. This is all new to us too, and so we aren't quite sure. We just want to make sure that it's safe and usable and helpful for everyone. So I don't think we have any closed minds about how we can and cannot, and it's important that whatever we decide is good for the group. So,
Diane, do you want to introduce yourself? This is Dawn, by the way. I'm logged in as Andy.
Yeah, Andy is in 2 places this time.
Okay. What did I just do?
I just
didn't do anything. We can hear you, Diane.
Yeah, we just went around and introduced ourselves. So, and I had you on mute because there was a little bit of feedback, but I just unmuted you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I wasn't muted. I am looking at my very last year of teaching next year also. But I did discover last week that as long as I am working with someone who is in the classroom, I can still continue to do workshops with NASA because I didn't apply for Sophia and some other things because I was looking at how can I make promises to work with groups of students when they're gonna, I'm not sure I'll be in the classroom past next year, but as long as I partner with a classroom teacher, I'm okay. So, was that news to anybody?
That's awesome, Diane. That's really great. That's exciting for you. Why don't you tell us where you are and what it is that you teach now for the people that are new in the group?
Okay, I'm in Florida. I'm just north of Kennedy Space Center, and I have been teaching in Florida's wild and crazy public schools. This is my 34th year, and I'm teaching physics and astronomy, and just went to, I've been working with NASA since 1985. It's been just so much fun. I had planned on leaving teaching after 5 years, and NASA got a hold of me, and that's it. I've stayed. So that's it. Is that enough?
Absolutely, that was great.
Okay, Andy, I think that you're up next on the agenda. Did you still want to share your resource, or did you need to put that off till next time? I don't know.
Oh, we can talk about it. I don't. We aren't going to have time to do an activity with it, or maybe as a group. So, and this research, I can talk a little bit about it, and so be glad to do that. So part of our idea moving forward that we got from your feedback, both in our last couple of meetings online and in through the survey, was that part of what this group really values is the sharing of resources. And our coordinators group is really great at finding, we're very connected to the actual missions, and to be able to have those scientists come and share what those missions are doing and introducing you to how you might be able to use that in your classroom. But one of the things that you all find most valuable is the conversations that you have have between each other and how you can use it in the classroom. And I'm hoping at one point we can even look at the helio strand maps that some of you helped to create, and talk about, you know, the way some of you have asked the question, what do we teach and when? And how do we get that in there, especially since so many of your curriculums don't include helio science. Many of the standards don't include sun science, let alone space. I know in Chicago, I can speak, you know, let alone space science, right? I mean, that it really doesn't even have a space in there other than to talk about the Earth, Moon, Sun relationship somewhere between 3rd and 7th grade, depending on where you are. So, you know, this is something that is really important to you, and you have all invested your time in being able to talk about those things. And so those of you that are HEAs are very, very familiar with the GEMS space science sequence, and we've talked about it a couple of times as a resource of where people can start when just talking about the sun. And so I wanted to be able to introduce an idea of how we can take what we've been talking about with that science, and we're not stopping connecting us with missions and science and all of that, but how can we start involving some of you in what you already do in your classrooms, because so many of you have such amazing ideas and have shared with us so many amazing ideas, and start to have a conversation about how do we actually, and where else can we start bringing this into our classroom, and how and when, and to really inspire some of you to give you new ideas. So I'm going to present, we asked you, I don't know, a couple months ago, and have an ongoing list of what you would like to see more of, what you want to know more about. And we put our heads together as coordinators and said, who do we know? What do we know? What do we have at our disposal? And we've kind of made a list of ideas that we had of things that we could share that we're hoping that you as the teachers can help work with us collaboratively in saying, okay, let's look at this resource. And how would you use that in a classroom? How have you used that in your classroom? What do you already do that would help bring those ideas into your classroom? And I will share that list in a little bit. So really what I'm doing now is just a way of modeling, of saying this is something that you all could share with the group as well, in going forward. And so we're going to ask you to think about that a little bit, and chime in as we go along between now and our next meeting about what you would be willing to do, or what you have to share, or how we could really make this a very collaborative process. So I brought along, let's see here. If you are an HEA, raise your hand so I can see you. So I know who I am talking to. Okay, so Diane and Dimitri, you know, because you've been through this, and Lynn. So this will be new to you. So I'm not going to talk about, I'm going to gloss over the mainframe of what this is, because so many people are familiar with it. That does not mean that you should not ask questions, those of you who are not familiar. So I would like to introduce it just a little bit, and then I would love for the rest of you to chime in how you've used it. I'm especially interested in knowing how it's been adapted, especially for those of you who do public outreach, those of you with middle school students, those of you with elementary school students, and those of you with high school students. You know, how can we start having those conversations of, that's great that this is geared for that age group, but how might we be able to use that in a multi-age situation? So the GEMS space science sequence was designed in collaboration with the IBEX mission and Lawrence Hall of Science. And it is specifically meant to help teachers, supports teachers in using an inquiry-based method in bringing science to their students. And what I really love about the GEMS space science sequence is that it specifically focuses on inquiry and discussion, and fostering those discussion and using claim evidence relationships for students to be able to have those discussions. It does it in some really creative ways, and also in putting real data, having students use real data in order to interpret it. The way that it is set up, it also really works with helping the teacher take that facilitator role rather than an instructor role. It is a very spelled out curriculum, but it leaves a lot of room for creativity in how you bring it and how you might use it for your classroom. So it's literally something you can pick up and use without a whole lot of preparation. There is preparation involved, but without a whole lot of preparation, or you can do some preparation and really see how you can take this and work with your students in a very, very different way. So that said, the first unit in the space science sequence is how does the sun affect the Earth? And it starts out very creatively in giving the students a mystery to solve. All of these mysterious events happen, and the students have to use these mysterious events to try to determine what caused all of these events to happen. And I just went and witnessed a club doing this today, and it was so curious to see where kids go. And it's so very obvious that even in today's day and age, they have no idea of how the sun really affects the earth. I had everything from terrorist organizations to alien invasion to a conspiracy between Olympic needs between the Olympic countries, especially North Korea and Russia, is how the students talked about these mysterious events happening. And so what they come to is through the club, they learn these different pieces about the sun, how it works, what its effect is on us. They talk about the electromagnetic spectrum. They talk about what about our solar system and how it is arranged helps protect us from some of those. So everything from the ozone protecting us from certain UV rays to how the magnetosphere interacts with our heliosphere and protects us from those gamma and X-rays. And they really get a good, strong sense of the important role that the sun plays beyond what the standards give us, in that the sun gives us light, it gives us warmth, and it perpetuates life on our planet. But really, how does it affect our everyday life? It's very exciting. It's very hands-on. What I love about it is that it uses real-time data. I was really, really excited to go back to this after having been with this group for a year, because there's so many things that we have already shared from different missions that fit directly right into what some of these lessons teach. For instance, one of the evidences that they use is they look at solar activity and looking at measurements from different dates and how that might have affected the events these mysterious events that happen. And I went right to immediately email Claire and said, you've got to come talk to these teachers about this, and show her Helio J piece and look at SDO and My Solar Observatory and show these students that this is a real thing. They can really track these things. And then looking at the combination between the magnetosphere and solar events and how that affects the aurora borealis. We're right there with IRIS mission. So all of these things that we've been able to talk about in the last year fit into this. So it uses those events to talk about these events, and then talk about solar activity, what that really means. It gives them each lesson gives you key points to give to students, so it spells it out directly so that they walk away knowing things, that our sun is a star, that, how scientists work. It talks about scientific literacy and thinking. It helps encourage that. It talks about what scientists really do so that the students can make the connection that what they're doing is behaving like real scientists, and be able to begin a culture of that type of thinking and argumentation, as well as really taking some very complex ideas and allowing them to come into the classroom in a very hands-on, very real way for them that they can attain and understand and use. Especially when you get into looking at the different effects that the sun has on the different layers of the atmosphere, and really looking at how this is a system, that we're all part of a system. And while we're used to systems being very tangible, this is one that is not tangible. It's just experiential, it's phenomenological, and making it very concrete for the students. There's an engineering principle built into most of these units, and in this one as well, in where the students look at using different materials and how the different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum affect need to be shielded, and why we would want to be shielded. So UV rays and sunscreen, and creating different kinds of shields for the astronauts and satellites as they go into space. So looking at those engineering principles and what you need to think about when interacting with the sun, why it's important that we know about the sun so that we know how to work with this when we go out into space and do research out there. It culminates into an ending piece where they, can see how you put the sun on trial. So it really meets the kids where they're at. It really uses a creative outlet to bring some very concrete ideas in a very hands-on and very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It is a lot of fun. It is very debatable. The kids really get into it. It's very intriguing. They're very curious. This is meant for grades 6 through 8. It's what it's specifically designed for. So it's right there for those middle school teachers or middle school students. And part of that is one thing that I've really struggled with in bringing this to different teachers is that one of the most complex things that it discusses in all of the units is the electromagnetic spectrum and how difficult that really is to talk about that light. We talk about light waves, but that light does not move in waves, the difference between speed and frequency, and why that needs to be delineated for the students, and how those different frequencies affect us, because they hear words like infrared and ultraviolet and gamma ray and X-ray, but they only have an experience of one component of it, and they don't get an experience of how it works together as a whole. So that's one thing that I know that in my PD that we spend a lot of time discussing is the electromagnetic spectrum and how to bring that to middle school students. So I know that the HEAs all get trained in using Unit 1 for sure, and that is what you take out to do your professional development. What have been other people's uses? You know, here at the Adler, I use it to help teachers run after-school clubs, so students have an opportunity, because the Chicago curriculum does not allow for a space for this very readily. So that's one place that teachers here can bring it to their students, is in an after-school club environment. But what have some of you HEAs been able to use this for, and how have you found it most beneficial?
Well, I use it actually in my curriculum. I use it with my 6th graders. I use it with my 8th graders. And because fortunately where we are, Earth and Space Science is, in 6th grade, we have a, I believe it's a 6-week unit, but in 8th grade, we have full 8 weeks to work with it. It's part of our state standards. And it's not just, in 8th grade, it's not just solar system wise. It's the Earth and Sun interaction, as well as deep space. So I'm able to pull in a lot of book 4. So I'm able to bring in some of that as well. With my 6th graders this year, this is my first year to teach 6th grade in a long time. So it's kind of different and new with them being so much younger mentally than the 8th graders are. But they're much more visual. And so we've actually just begun this week, we've just begun looking at the Sun-Earth system. And by bringing that in, we've brought in just a few things by talking about what the sun is. And the sun is a star, and it's amazing already the misconceptions, because I have to already break down a lot of misconceptions that my students have coming up from elementary school. I was really surprised about a lot of that. So it's been breaking down misconceptions right now. As we get going into the unit next week, we're going to start on Monday with the case of mysterious events. I have those. What I did with those was on the DVD that we have, or the CD that we have, I took the I guess they're mainly overhead cards or whatever they are on the CD, but I made them into event cards. And so I give each one of my groups, they have a set of the event cards that I've created out of it, and they have to put them in some kind of order. Now the 8th graders, I just give it to them and they have to put it in some sort of order based on what they're reading. The 6th graders, I actually read it to them. Instead of having other students who are the newscasters for it, I actually kind of portray that role, and I don't do inflections of the voice. It's just I'm reading it off to them, and then they're going to be placing everything in order. Once they're finished with that, then we'll continue on with some of the activities. But what I was pulling out of my book that a lot of my 8th graders really did enjoy doing, especially my lower 8th grade students, my inclusion kids, my students that we call them sheltered kids. They're the ones that are low English proficiency, and they're very visual. So when we start talking about what happens with the sun, with the solar flares and the spots and all of that, we found, and I can't remember where we found these, but I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll send the link to it. But anyway, we found these really cool flip books, and and this was a couple of years ago. So they have these they're beautifully colored, and there we go. So anyway, they're absolutely beautiful. And we have one for what a solar eruption is, it's called a triple threat, coronal mass ejections. But we have those, and the kids like to see them because they staple them together in like a comic book. They can go through them, and as they flip them, they actually see the event happen. And for some of them who do not have the technology at home, it gives them another media to be able to recognize what's going on with the sun. So I bring some other ancillary materials in with it. And I know that each year when we've done the HEA, we've talked about the balloon going up into the, the atmosphere and the layers of the atmosphere. I've tried that for a couple of years, and each time, we've been someplace, whether it's been, in Alaska or Chicago or the reunion, it's like, man, that is the most confusing thing to try to give to middle school kids. So I'm sorry, I just kind of glossed by that one, and we talk about layers of the atmosphere, but we really don't do much more than that with it. But that's how I bring a lot of it in, and that's how I get them started. I'm very fortunate of where I work because the right by Johnson Space Center, and I don't know who came in for SEEK this year, but where they were and around and about, if you were to turn on this one road, that's where my school is. So I'm very fortunate to have a lot of people that I can come in and talk to my students, as well as, just other different presentations. So I'm very fortunate on that. So we end up getting a lot of parents that come in and they can talk to the kids about what's going on. And right now it's a really big deal with all the weather that's been going on. My gosh, you guys up there are crazy. We've been cold down here. Okay, I know for y'all, like 35 is not cold, but down here that's like subarctic, for us down here in Texas. We're not used to that. So, the kids are all talking about, climate change and what the shift is. And so then I found this other kind of cool thing, and it's called Climate Discovery, a Teacher Guide. And it comes from the National Center for Atmospheric Research. And it's another really neat thing that we're going to be bringing in. We start talking about weather, and so that we can bring it all in, because that's part of the earth science that we do as well. So after we get finished with the sun-earth connection, then we're going to start pulling this in to see, okay, so what does the sun do to affect the weather that we have today? So anyway, so that's kind of, sorry, I get excited about this part of the year. but that's how I do things. And the big thing for us is just really breaking down misconceptions that the students have about what our sun is, what is the solar system. And then of course, I have all of my little bumper stickers about Pluto, honk if Pluto's a planet, and all that sort of thing. So we already have those debates. So that's what we do with a lot of it. And again, I'm fortunate down here in Texas that we have a very long time within the 6th grade and 8th grade curriculum to really do some excellent lessons, and to get the kids to really have a good base understanding of what is going on with the heliosphere. So that's my thing.
Awesome, Nancy. Thank you. I'm going to share if anybody else wants to share, go ahead. I was going to share my screen and show some of the information, kind of walk through what it starts with and goes on to, for those of you who haven't seen. But yeah, those news flashes and, thank you for bringing up the misconceptions, Nancy, that's the other pillar of GEMS, is that this space science curriculum was designed was to address misconceptions, student misconceptions, and be able to address them and mediate them. And so, Rick has got his, yes, the invisible universe. Tell us about that, Vic.
If you're looking for just pure wavelengths, in other words, this seems to be a feeder to your first GEMS, because it goes through each specific frequency, and there is some really neat little lab activities in here about shielding and transmitting that you can build. I've built it to take, we could spend a week just shielding and transmitting various forms of EMRs. And it's, again, I teach basically it's exploratory for middle school. And this is what we do. We call it astronomy. And so we start with this to give a sense of the source of radiation from the sun, and we go through it. And this really does a nice job. And it is a GEMS guide. And that's why I was looking through the first one, and there's so many similarities It just kind of looks like they've taken one and they say, oh, that's a good idea, and they build on it, and they build another one, and they give it a new name. So I get confused anymore on which GEMS guide people are using.
Well, this is the most updated form, but you're exactly right, Vic, because what is wonderful about Lawrence Hall of Science is that they look at and say, what have we already done? Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's improve upon it. So yes, no, you're right. That was the precursor to, at least for Unit 1. Unit 2 talks about reason for the seasons. Unit 3 talks about the solar system, and Unit 4 goes beyond the solar system. So GEMS is set up to scaffold and spiral, but each unit can be used alone. And most of the activities, actually, if you're a creative teacher and think really well about it, can also be used as standalone. But you're right, Vic, that the Invisible Universe has some great pieces about the electromagnetic spectrum. I'm glad that you brought that up. Anybody else have experience with it, or ways that they have used, and those misconceptions? I would say the other thing that I would say about that is, even today I heard students that were completely shocked that there were other solar systems, that there were, that the stars were suns. So one student asked me a question and said, so those other planets that you're talking about, do they, because I always talk a little bit about who I am and what I do when I go out there, and I said, these other planets that they're finding, so do they get light from the sun? And I, had to ask, from our sun or from their sun? And she said, no, our sun. And I said, no, they're too far away, but they get light from their sun. And that just blew some of the kids' minds. They were like, our sun can be the only one, right? And so that it really works with those misconceptions that students have. Anybody else have stuff to share about it? I'm going to share my screen while somebody talks, not me.
I can really quick. I use the GEMS guide with high school kids and middle school kids, and sometimes just in tiny little bits, the elementary teachers, I help them with some things. The middle school, I kind of run it just as it is. With the high school kids, I have found that a lot of them, it's too slow and I can't keep their interest. So I take just a really overview of it, and I use it to start off electromagnetic spectrum with them, because they need to be reminded a lot. And we do a bunch of shielding and absorption and transmission stuff. But right now, they went through the quick sun on trial and had to see what kinds of events happened. And then we tied it back to, they had to go find a event that happened in history off of the sun, go through, find all kinds of data to support it, and events that happened in newspapers and communications disruptions and whatnot. And they're currently working on building a HelioViewer movie of the event that they chose. And so they're going to build their little movie, and they have to write a script that describes what is physically happening and why it is happening, and then how it affected what's going on. That's what my high school kiddos are doing at the moment. And they're doing that in physics class because they wanted to.
Awesome. That was part that got me really excited with looking at, the students need to know 3 things from every lesson. I don't care if you're teaching them math or you're teaching them reading or you're teaching them science. And that is, what is happening? Where have I seen it before? And why should I care? And that right there, Laura, is a perfect example of taking, real time, because the events, these mysterious events that happen are all things that have happened. Cell towers go out, power surges, magnetic north is read as being something, is being off a little bit by scientists all over the world. Radio and TV broadcasts are disrupted rather. And so they take all of these things that have really, really happened, but never happened all at once. So it's a fictional situation where they're all happening at once. But to be able to take that, Laura, exactly, and say, okay, when have we experienced, cell phone outages in a large blanketed area? And can we trace that back to a solar, especially this year with all the solar activity that's gone on? It's very, very easy to be able to look at how how that could have happened. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, Laura. We have some really great ways to do that. And what a great way to expand that to the high school, to be able to meet them where they're at. And it definitely does go at a pace that is challenging for middle schoolers, but I could totally see how it isn't as challenging to high schoolers, because they can make those connections so much more quickly than the middle schoolers are really just beginning to have that dialogue.
They're little, they won't play along as long either. They don't care if the sun's on trial. Another thing that I did do with the high school kids, because they all love doom and gloom, if you tie back to the superstorm of 1850 something or other, and then say, okay, so those are the conditions there. This is your storm that you looked at that was really big, that messed up your cell phone and it ruined your satellite and messed up your internet for a little while. What would happen if this happens now? And they all love to panic that they probably will die if they lose their internet connection for an hour. But they enjoy that historical tie back to it too.
Something that I've seen done also with regards to the 1859, I think it was, event, the Carrington event it was called, is that the comparison of data, the difference in what we can see and how it looks then versus now. I don't know if that's something that your students would be interested in, but just something for you guys personally also, how far we've come in the last 154 years is pretty impressive.
Wikipedia says 1859.
I know this because it was the year I finished my PhD. It was 150 years since the event. So.
Awesome. How else are people teaching pieces about? So if you aren't using, if you haven't been able to use the GEM space science sequence in your classrooms, what are you using to teach those components of the influence of the sun, and how you bring in the electromagnetic spectrum, its effects on satellite communications, the different aspects of its light components, why we should care? What are you able to do? Because really, I mean, that's what when I look at any of the when I look at the standards and what some of the curriculum teaches, it just stays there, and light, the sun gives us light and warmth. Well, awesome. What does that really mean? But what are some of the other things that some of you are doing in your classrooms or in your public outreach or any of that? I know, like Lynn, I'm thinking specifically of you, Lynn, because you do so many solar activities with the public, and how do you tie them into the why should you care kind of piece?
I don't have the GEMS books that you're talking about. And so basically what we do is we do like it when the sun's not so boring, and we do have sunspots over there. We have the different ways to safely look at the sun. We talk about how to safely look at the sun. With the sun spotter, we have the sun funnel, we have the white light, and we have the H-alpha. And we talk about the difference between a CME and a flare. And we talk about how, when we get the solar wind, that sometimes it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 days, and how we know it's coming. And we talk about how it interacts with the earth, and so how we can sometimes see the northern lights, and they all want to know, okay, I got this, a friend of mine had some family visiting here at Christmas, and she sent me a text saying, when can we see the northern lights? Like I could predict it. I know. But we talk about that and how it interacts with the earth. Some people do ask me about, what's going to do to my cell phone and the Carrington effect, and how it erodes the pipelines and all of that kind of stuff. And it depends. We have time with the people, like when we're at Yellowstone, but you know, we'll be talking to them, and Old Faithful will start going off, and they run to go look at Old Faithful and leave us in the dust. I do the solar viewing at the park here, and I take pictures from the Soho website, because when you take the picture from there off the internet, it has an Earth to scale and Jupiter to scale. So when we talk about the sunspots, and I will save pictures from week to week, and there's different people, because it's at a music concert during the summer here, and we're there every week. We'll show them how, because also the Soho website, it numbers the sunspots, and we'll see and watch how they move throughout from week to week. And people keep coming up to me, you know, every other week to see how those things are affecting what we're doing. And we do see the northern lights, luckily, a lot up here. We're far enough north.
Awesome. I love the idea that they think that you can just reserve the northern lights for them.
Yes.
And put in a reservation.
Yes. Tell me when. I'll be there.
Well. And meanwhile, find them a unicorn as well. Put that on display. Awesome. Sally, you've been, there's Sally. She's still on here. Good. Sally, I know that you just ordered them. Have you, is Unit 1 one that you have been able to use with your students, or have you been using the others?
I've started using the first event. It was really interesting. It certainly took a lot longer time for the kids to work on the case of the mysterious event, and each of them created a presentation, which I think I'll share because I have permission to do that. And it was really interesting to see how they reasoned through their ideas about who the culprit was, and why. Because at that point they were pretty sure that they knew who it was. And so now we're leading into, we've made the spectroscopes of a visual spectrum from, I forget what, I don't know, the one that's 3D, and we're going to make a large model of the entire spectrum. So they're waiting for that. And I've created on a PowerPoint some of the conceptions about the sun that is listed in the gem. So I'm still on that first unit, and I love it. I certainly want to look at the invisible. I love the gem stuff anyway. It's really connected. But this week has been unreal, because you won't believe what I've been doing. And I've been trying to think of, how could I share this odd thing that I'm doing? It has nothing to do with heliophysics, yet it does. So I've had my kids do a dissection of a pig poke. Now, do you know what a pig poke is? I went to it. Do you? What is it? I went to a slaughterhouse and got a...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was like, do you really want me to tell them, Sally?
Well, it's not what you think. I mean, I don't know. I know what a cowpoke is, very different, but anyway. So I got this dissection piece, 4 of them, of lungs, trachea, and heart. And we went through this entire dissection of the circulatory system, everything connected. And so I haven't asked this question yet, but I said, how would these pigs or any animal on Earth be affected by our sun? I mean, I think I'm going to make a connection between health and what we do, because we're alive because of our space and our place. What kind of environment, and the whole theme this year for me is going to be, our Earth is in what kind of environment, this protective envelope that really protects us to keep our atmosphere, and we're in the right spot to have the right place from Earth in order to have life, in order to have photosynthesis, in order to make all these connections between biology and astronomy and weather and everything else. So, but I went down to the slaughterhouse in a storm. We're having a storm right now. We have over 6 inches, again, over what we got before 2 days ago. So it's been unreal. And I'm getting ready for open house Friday. So it's just like, oh, okay. That's why I'm late. So anyway, but I love the gem. So I've just started it. But anyway, so.
Awesome. That is so great. One thing I'd hoped to do with you tonight was we've talked about putting the sun on trial after the students have collected a bunch of evidence and learned some of these key concepts about the sun. Then they use them to help make the argument about why the sun could or could not be a suspect in these mysterious events. And that would have been a really fun activity to do with you all, even though many of you have already done them.
We're leading up to that.
Are you? Good.
Yeah. After we make the whole spectrum, they're excited about looking at making those spectroscopes of the visible spectrum and then figuring out the rest of it. And, and we're also observing the moon. We're doing a lot of observing and looking at the sky and really doing this over long term and figuring out, whether it's waning or waxing or, so we've been following that like crazy, even in our cloudy weather. So anyway, so we're doing a lot. And I will share the PowerPoint and some of the presentations because the kids gave me permission to do this. I said, I've got a group of teachers throughout the nation and the world who want to see this stuff. So they said, okay. So I will share it. It's just.
Please do. And any of you, if any of you like Nancy and Vic, if you can, if you haven't already, I can't see the chat. So some of you might have already put in the chat where you're getting, I'm sorry, I got something in my eye. With these resources that you have, but if not for sure, make sure you share them on the Wikio so that we can archive those and be able to find them. Student work is always wonderful to share with each other. I think that a lot of you get so much in being able to see each other's student work and how you interpreted this. I know just from seeing the first lesson in this being done in so many of my clubs in different ways, I'm excited to kind of compile and share with my Space Explorer clubs, like all the different ways that people have been able to, and what worked and what didn't work. But they really help those students build those discussion and claim evidence skills as well. So make sure that you share all of those extra activities and how you are helping those students facilitate those conversations. Middle schoolers, like Laura said, middle schoolers need it so much more than high schoolers do, but it is kind of a muscle, that discussion muscle. They're so used to being spoon-fed everything that if they wait long enough, right, then the teacher will eventually tell them. And what they don't know is that many of us can outwait them for days. We don't get paid by the hour, so it doesn't matter. We'll wait forever. But they're so used to being spoon-fed that how do we help them have these conversations with one another and really discuss and debate it. So I wish we would have had time that we could have done an activity like that. For those of you who choose to help out with these things in the future, it would be great. I think that we all, I know like when Laura mailed out the magnets, it's really fun to get to do something together and look at those pieces. So some of the ideas now that I want to be respectful of our time because we only have about 5 minutes left, I wanted to share kind of what we had set up in, if I can find the right thing. So I have made a document that I will share on Google Docs for you to sign up and look at some of the things. These are just some of the things that we have come up with as a coordinators group and incorporated some of the ideas that or all of the ideas as far as I know. Got to make sure I have the right thing. All of the ideas that you had offered, but if people have ideas for more things, please make sure that you offer it. I don't have my email is dumb, so I have to put in each of your emails individually in order to share it, but I have set it up that everyone can view this if you're invited and everyone can edit. So these are some of, like tonight we did the GEM Space Science sequence, and I would put my name here. Here are some of the other things that we have looked at. Some of them you may be familiar with, some of you may not be, and you can do some research and see if there's something that you would like to share. GEONS people, I just lumped those all together, and I'm sure that was probably dumb and inadequate of me, but I would love your input, and feel free to add more categories or whatever to be able to share some of these things, especially in these other ideas. But I'll mail this out, and perhaps there's people in the group that you would like to reach out to, or there are people who want to sign up for similar projects, and you guys can kind of talk offline and figure out how you're going to do that. And we are glad to help support in any way we can by introducing what, for instance, some of you may or may not know what sunspotters or aurorasaurus is. We're glad to kind of do the introduction and talk about why it might be important. And then some of you may have activities you're already doing that tie in, such as how Laura shared about looking up historical events and looking back at the sun data and having students do that. That's not something that is written up or part of the GEMS curriculum, but works in tandem with it so well. Those are the kinds of things that we are looking for people to share. So I will make sure to invite all of you to that so that you can add, this is, for those of you who don't know, this is multi-wavelength professional development activities. Some of you have been through that, some of you have not. So those of you who have, I would love to have your input on. Many of you do Sun Earth Day activities. There are a million of them, like the Sun Pizza and whatnot. So this can be a very diverse type of piece. But so do know, we'll put that out there. Do think about it. If we don't have people take a bite right away, we probably will poke you and say, hey, we know you have experience with this, or what sounds interesting to you? How can we help support you in presenting to the group and sharing what you already do or what you already know? Is there any questions about that, or
early nominations if anybody wants
or
to
early nominations?
Sign up to, like, this is my favorite topic. I know that more than one person can volunteer for a specific topic, and if you notice that somebody else is already presenting on your favorite topic, you can maybe want to join forces with them, or at least shoot them an email to make sure that you're not both planning to present exactly the same thing. So remember that the whole purpose of this is just sharing of exactly what we just did, sharing ideas and resources. And if you did something that really tweaked the run-of-the-mill lesson plan and made it awesome, then absolutely go for it.
And I'm way more talky because of just how I had to come into this meeting tonight. I had much more planned to be much more hands-on and experiential for you. So don't feel that you have to just sit and talk about it, have people do it, or, share what you've done with it. But yes, absolutely work collaboratively together.
Will you be explaining some of those lists of stuff, since we haven't heard of some of those? Like, I have a sunspotter. Is that what it is? Is that what sunspotters are? Or
Sunspotters is a new citizen science project out of the Zooniverse, and that looks at counting, helping to use crowdsourcing to track data for sunspots.
Like Zoo Universe?
Out of what?
Zoo Universe?
Yep, out of the Zooniverse. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's a platform on there. And so, yeah, I can, or if other people want to jump in, like I said, anybody can edit this document that'll be invited to it. So, Gian's people, you can't see my screen. I just realized that I'm not sharing anymore. If you have specific Gian's activities or activities that tie in the magnetometer data, whatever, put that in there. But I can definitely, what I know, I can put in some extra information, but people should also feel free to be able to do that as well.
And also, if there are other topics on there other topics that are not on there that you feel are important, or you just have something that you like to share that don't fit into any of these boxes, feel free to add away. This is not a definitive list by any means. This is a needs for you guys. So yes, make that other ideas real topics and expand and contract whatever you think is important.
This was just something we came up with to get the juices flowing. Some ideas we had off the top of our heads. So we hope that you'll be adding to it.
And some ideas that were given, in the different meetings and in the survey as well, we included in there. So it's for you, and we want to hear more from you guys, and any ideas that you have, and we have access to more resources or science or whatever we can do on our end, on the NASA end, we're more than happy to figure out how we can make that connection and make that work for you. So.
Can I just say that things like sunspotters and aurorasaurus and things that may not be immediately clear to you, if you say aurorasaurus, well, that's aurora. Well, I have this cool activity on aurora, even if it's not directly tied to what we mean by aurorasaurus, that's okay. That's absolutely great. Share whatever you think might be related or even only mildly related on any of the given topics. The more we share, the more we'll progress. So if you have something that you'd like to share about your sunspotters, then absolutely, Sally, take it away.
All right, well, I think we're at time, and I just want to thank everybody for joining in. Thank you for everyone who shared tonight, and thank you so much to those new members that were able to join us. It's exciting to see our group get bigger and grow and include more people. We do have access now to a Zoom version that allows us to have up to 100 people online at the same time. So as our group grows, we will definitely be using that so that we have room for more than 25. I know tonight it wasn't an issue, but we're hoping it will be in the near future. And I know others of you also have invited colleagues to come, and hopefully they will be able to join us in the near future as well. So thank you to everybody. If you have questions, or like I said, I have to implement or input all of your emails individually, because we have a dumb system at my work that is changing, so it doesn't talk to Google very well. But as soon as I get all of your emails inputted, then I will send that out so you guys can start signing up and volunteering and collaborating and sharing and doing all these great things. But our next meeting is the same date, March 18th at 6 p.m. Central Time. So whatever time you signed on tonight will be the same time that you signed. I won't go through all the times. But March 18th is the next meetup that we have. So I know some of you might be on break. Jane did, I don't know, I didn't share this with the coordinators. Jane did chime in and said that she had some things going on at home tonight that she wasn't going to be able to make it. So that's why she's not with us. And then Nancy's uncle died as well. So our condolences go out to her.
Everybody has to wear green and bring Guinness next week. It's the day after St. Patrick's Day.
I thank you to the Irish woman in our group to remind us that it is the day after St. Patty's. And here in Chicago, hopefully we will not still be recovering.
Anytime green that day. I'll open the meeting with my bagpipes.
That would be awesome. Please.
I'm not opening the meeting.
You would make me so gleeful, Claire.
I'm going to blow my own trumpet here for a minute. I am playing with the Chieftains tomorrow and Thursday, which is kind of cool.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
You're going to play with them.
Yeah. Oh, you thought I was going to go watch them? No, I'm performing with them. My band plays with them every few years.
Okay, so now you have to do a share out next meeting. You totally have to do a share out. There better be some video on YouTube somewhere that shows.
I'll get some of my fans to do some recording. It'd be good fun.
That's awesome, Claire. I want your autograph.
I want to come see. I want to fly out there and see it. I saw that on your calendar. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. She's gonna go a couple nights to the Chieftains. No. Way cooler than that. Anyhow. All right. Well, if anybody has anything, I know some of you, we want to honor your time, and I know that some of you may need to leave, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if you have any additional thoughts, any feedback, make sure that you chime in on the Wikio or let one of us know with the group. So, okay, February.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop recording now.
Thank you, Don.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everybody.